Want to call to order the meeting of the April 13th Monroe County Stormwater Management Board. Present in person are Commissioner Jones and Trania Wright Randolph, and via Zoom we have Commissioner Thomas and I'm Penny Giffens. So we'll have to take roll call votes for this, Ms. Latonia, okay? At this point, it's time for public input for any items that are not on the agenda. We'll limit the time to 3 minutes. Is there anyone either via Zoom or in person who wishes to make a comment?
Good morning or good afternoon.
Whatever it
It's been a
is,
long
right?
day. You know, bless your hearts, you can't hear you guys at all behind your mask. This morning I watched you and you just couldn't hear anything.
I have
so-
a cold and I don't want to
I
share it with
understand. No, I
anybody.
understand totally, but you just can't hear anything. I'm Judy Sharp, County Assessor, and I'm up here sort of out of my wheelhouse, but something has come to our attention because people call us about their taxes. And this is on the stormwater fees. And we had a lady call us today, and it was the stormwater fee that raised her assessment by 400 and some odd dollars. She is a small business owner out on Prather Road, out in the middle of Timbuktu. And she said I could tell you who it was. It's the Cleaninger upholstery shop, and she has a small part of their barn that they do upholstery in. So it is a commercial business. But however, I found out the way you all have to do commercial, it's by impervious surfaces. And I guess you find out that they're commercial because in our, on my assessments, we put down that it's a commercial, it's commercial. I could have put her down just as residential agricultural, wouldn't have had to do that, but because she does run a small business, we pick up a half an acre out of her acreage for commercial. That's how we would do anyone out in the country, a small business. So what this happened by doing this, she is now paying this on top of other taxes, over $400 extra a year. And I think you all know that that's a real issue. And this is Bean Blossom. And I have to tell you, I was shocked that she's not in the fire district. That's going to add another, when they finally pick her up into that, there'll be another, God only knows how much. I don't understand how they do assess that either. It seems to be all over the board. She is like everybody else. We're all under, no matter if you're working or not, you have a certain amount of money that you can afford to pay. And we're hitting the caps, people. And I'm saying that as the assessor, you're hitting the caps in real estate throughout this county because we keep adding fees and more. I don't know what you can do, if there's anything you can do, but I know this is an issue for more than one person because I've heard from quite numerous people. I think you have also. I called the head of the Stormwater today, Kelsey. She was very nice, explained that I don't understand, and maybe you can help me, and I know I'm on 3-minute time, but
Yes,
But
please.
you're an
just
elected
continue.
official. You're
okay,
fine.
but the thing of it is, okay, they have a big barn. They're using a part of the barn, not all the barn, because she has horses. So I understand you pick up the whole barn as impervious surface, but she's gravel. Gravel is not impervious surface. You call it impervious, but you've all stood in gravel, the water goes right underneath there. And I've never understood that because I get a lot of calls about that, oh, they picked up my driveway for impervious surface. Maybe they are doing that and I don't understand it. And maybe that's just me. I'm not you all, but I think that is something you could look at because she has quite a bit of gravel out in front of her business. I thought impervious surfaces in my business, I don't pick gravel up. I pick concrete up, but I don't pick gravel. So I'm thinking that might be an issue. But today has been, as every day it seems like lately, with taxes. We hear it, my office hears it as much, if not more than anyone else, because I'm the A in the phone book. And everybody calls us. So I'm getting a lot of stuff. You know, I'm even going to talk about this income tax that the mayor wants to do. I've already sent, there was a surveyor. I was totally against it. And I'll tell you why, ladies and gentlemen. This is one reason. Every time we turn out, we're taxing the public, and that's us. We're taxpayers. It's constant. And I saw what it's going to increase. Everybody's out in the country or the county. We've got to, right now, let's just kind of pull back a little bit and quit adding more and more. Everybody has a need. First of all, I understand that. Really understand it. But at the same time, boy, the taxes are eating us alive. And I mean, we were not aware of the fire district last year. That came out of the blue. We got the first calls and I'm like, your assessment didn't go up. But they ended up paying up to over $1,000 more on taxes. Those are the true stories. And I don't think most of you understand. Yeah, this lady would have had less than $1,000 a year, and now it's almost, and she has lots of exemptions and deductions that other people wouldn't have. So it's a lot of money. And I think we just need to be more aware of that. And Kelsey made she was saying, Judy, we were behind the 8 ball and I took over. We don't have, we're still not doing what should be doing. Totally understand that. But it seems like, I don't know how much more the public can stand. And I'm of the public. Next year, if they take Salt Creek, I'm going to be up here screaming my head off over the fire district. Period. I'm just telling you that ahead. Because my house, it starts to burn, you're not going to get there. I don't care who has it. So there. So sorry, it's been a long day, people.
The stormwater fee went into effect for people for the first time last year.
Yeah, it was the
So
first time last year. I don't know what
she should have
happened.
seen that on her bill last year. Right?
People don't see things sometimes, and I don't know why she caught it this year so much. Her whole tax bill went up a little bit because, just not your fees, but the state changed, they changed the cost tables on us. They changed the agricultural land. Lee, your assessment will go up this year. So she saw that happen also. So when they start, then this piece of paper that everybody gets, it's really in front of them now, and they see it and they call us. And like I said, I have not had a dog in this fight, the stormwater, but yet I'm seeing, like we all are, just fee after fee after fee after fee, and we just keep adding to it. And I don't have the answer, but I just wanted to maybe if you at least think twice about impervious surface as gravel. It's not. It really isn't in nobody's book. Or maybe somehow in your book, Tron, and the surveyor, but nobody picks that up as a cost. We don't. So give her that at least as something to think about. I appreciate it. Thank you all.
Can you
Yes,
wait just a
ma'am.
minute? Does anybody have any comments or questions?
Yeah, I don't really think there's a question here, but it's always been a very high concern with adding additional fees. This is kind of a unique one. It's not a tax, it's a
It's a
ratepayer fee. So
Yeah.
they both walk and quack like a duck to me, especially with people on fixed incomes. In 2010, FEMA launched their more digitized GIS floodplain maps. And what occurred for the next 4 or 5 years after that was all of these houses being kind of sent mortgage or insurance for their house on their mortgage. So, it really hit a lot of people with fixed incomes hard. And so I have a very, very compassionate heart towards citizens here with fixed incomes. And I've always been a little hesitant with the increase with the rate fee, but ultimately, stormwater's discussions and, the same way that you stated earlier, them being behind the 8 ball, it seemed okay to kind of move forward. And I think you're absolutely right. We should pause, adjust, and reevaluate. And I think some things you indicated with maybe this particular person on a fixed income is that their zone might still be residential, right? So is there a way that we can use some factors with the zoning, but they still have a business, or, the size of their business and kind of the operation going place? Like, should we look at that as like the same type of commercial use as a CVS, So, I think there could be some mechanics built into that to relieve some of the onerous burden on our residents. And I think that, it wouldn't necessarily impact Stormwater's bottom line substantially if we're only looking at kind of these smaller outliers that are more of a at-home business. Again, that's another thing that
Well,
planning
This is bigger
identifies.
than an at-home business. I mean, it's probably one of the best upholstery shops.
But
yet-
I
you-
see your
You
point.
understand what I'm
And,
saying? Yeah.
and I think there's mechanics that we could apply that could secure the bottom line of Stormwater so we could stay operational. But relieve some of the onerous burden on the residents that incur this ratepayer fee increase. And I truly believe that we should look at that, because
That's all I'm asking, just kind
doesn't
of
need to be a
relook,
one fit.
reanalyze a little bit. I also heard through all this discussion, the Lions Club over in Bean Blossom. It's a non-taxable business, but they still have to pay stormwater. I understand that. We do churches also, which, I never thought I'd see the day that we did churches, but now the churches are being taxed. But if you've been, I think all of you have been over to the Lions Club, it's nothing but gravel. It's a humongous gravel potholey thing. Well, they're getting all that impervious surface because, help me out here, Tron, I think you use the GIS and look to see if you can see the surface and measure that.
Right, I think it's more of a technical document, but I do think building in incentives would be
Yeah.
a great, and again, that's kind of a mechanism I see more in planning. So it'd be interesting if we could crosswalk some of these incentives that they have in planning into stormwater to reduce their ratepayer fee, because you're absolutely right. If it's not impervious, then it's in my opinion almost a better practice.
Yeah.
So
That's like I say,
it's
I'm-
case by case, but I completely hear what you're saying, and
I'm
it's
way
always
out of my
been a
wheelhouse
concern.
here, people, but I just thought I better bring this to somebody's attention.
Yeah.
Because I'm hearing it more and more. So I appreciate you listening.
Sorry. Can you tell us exactly what process we would follow to try to do something like this?
Yeah, I have a lot of ideas on how to, modify how we calculate the stormwater fee. One of the first things I wanted to tackle was a tiered residential system, because that's a flat rate. And to me, that there's so much diversity in the county as far as properties go, that would be one of the ones that I had on my mind. We can also do a credit system if folks implement some BMPs in their properties, like detention ponds and other things. And I've already talked to Christopher Burke Engineering. They would be ready to go if I would be interested in contracting something like that out, or, talking to other engineering companies too, of course. But it's something that other communities have looked at. Of course, managing all of that takes a lot of staff time. Already the stormwater fee takes up a lot of staff time, and then having to track everything is a lot, but I recognize its importance, of course. The other thing I wanted to say is, from our drainage and engineering standpoint, gravel lots are considered impervious surface. There is very little infiltration into a gravel lot. It's compacted. When you build a parking lot, you're compacting 53s into the ground. So often we see gravel lots and driveways washing into the streets. And that means that the water is not infiltrating. It is, forming potholes, it's forming ruts and things. And that means that there is water on the surface there. And so when we model, detention ponds and other things, gravel is always counted as impervious surface. I think there are some ways if you have like certain density of grass growing in the gravel, that's something that we do have to draw the line there sometimes, but that is standard engineering practice when you're designing lots, is to count it as impervious. So yeah, I can, over the next few months, look into proposals and maybe some examples from other MS4s on ways that we can improve our stormwater fee. in the future.
And I would just suggest, like lot size, it seems like you're right on the same kind of thought process, and like a tiered maybe rate fee for commercial use too, seems like something that could address what concern our assessor Judy has. And one, I lost my train of thought right there at the very end. Yeah, unfortunate about gravel, and it's kind of an interesting conversation. We're having a conversation in planning about existing driveways that are gravel, and I hope stormwater can weigh in eventually. But pavers, those are technically viewed as.
Do you want me to talk about permit?
Well, I just want to, I know we're still updating our technical manual,
Yeah.
but are pavers identified as like impervious surface?
If someone wants to use permeable pavers to count towards detention or water quality treatment requirements, I require them to show in their calculations certain amount of void volume that they have, plus a margin of safety, plus very stringent measures in their operations and maintenance manual on how they're going to maintain that. Because even if you let it go for a few years, all of those voids will fill in, and then you lose all of your capacity. I want to avoid that, honestly, because it takes so much staff time to educate the property owners, to inspect all of these BMPs and see if they are in working order. And then for the owners themselves to have to contract out someone to clean them annually, which is what manufacturers recommend.
Okay.
It's difficult. And I know there's so many, around us, because they are popular, but if we're looking at detention specifically, it's very tricky to make it work, in my opinion.
So it
Commissioner-
almost seems like it's not worth it. I mean, if you get incentive off your fee, ratepayer fee, but then the maintenance and maintaining the pavers almost don't seem like, it almost seems like a wash cost or an added expense on one side. So it'd be really cool to figure out how we can, implement best practices where it's still cost effective.
Commissioner Thomas, did you have any questions or comments for Assessor Sharp? Okay.
No, I'm fine. Thank you.
Thank you. She said no. Okay, let's move on to the next item on the agenda, which will be approval of the minutes for February 9th, 2020. Do I have a motion?
Move approval of the minutes for February 9th, 2022.
Second.
Thank you. Are there any additions or corrections that anyone has? If not, Ms. Titonia, could you call the roll, please?
And Wright Randolph,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes,
Githens,
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Thank you. Let's move on to stormwater expenditure reports for February and March of 2020. Ms. Titonia? Are you going to start with February?
Yes, sorry. Here's the February stormwater expenditure report. We have February and March since our last meeting was canceled. All right, so fairly low for fleet maintenance and repair. Certification renewal. Our MS4 staff attended the LTAP Drainage Conference at Purdue, which was really useful. We had all of the item staff there to give us updates on the new general permits. Standard flagging services, and I think the street sweeping debris that was still picked up from an invoice from last season, but that should be the end of it. And then we're gonna send out our first batch of sweepings again for this year very soon. So those charges will pick back up. Okay. We paid the MOU that we approved last year for Friends of Lake Monroe for the watershed coordinator gap funding period. Maggie and I have actually been meeting pretty regularly to discuss some things. They have their septic system, the grant that they have, and she said it's been very successful, very popular so far. They allocated all of their funds right away and are searching for more. So they put on a webinar on septic system maintenance recently with the health department. That was really great. So again, she and I have been meeting pretty regularly. So if you have any questions about what she's doing during this time, just let me know. We had a booth at the Master Gardeners Fair. They estimated over 1,000 people attended that event. So that was really great. Fuel usage.
Excuse
Again,
me,
yeah.
Kelsey,
Mhm.
is there a way to turn your mic up just a hair?
I can talk louder.
That'd be perfect.
That would help. Thank you. Or move it closer to you.
I'm used to Zoom meetings, sorry. All right. Let's see, and then, then we also had an MOU from last year with the Lake Monroe Water Fund, and that is the last line there. And I believe that is the last invoice from USGS from that water quality monitoring project. And so you'll see the other funds for the water fund pretty soon. For March, a lot more of the same. Fleet maintenance, pretty low. I will say the next fleet maintenance bill coming up will be a little bit higher. We had a pretty big issue with the grade all, but it has been repaired, thankfully. So let's see. That was my cartograph certification under training and travel. I did a course with that, passed the exam, and so now I have a certificate. Our IU work study program, we have 2 graduate fellows from the O'Neill School at IU. They've been helping me with our water quality characterization report update that's required with the new MS4 general permit. So they both have class during this time. Otherwise, I would love to have them present it to you, but they cannot work during class periods. So that'll be a paper report from them. Then we have some professional fees. These are all reviews that Terry Crowman helped us with towards the end of last year. We renewed his contract for this year. And so as you can see, some of the projects are fairly small, but some of the larger ones, like for example, Westgate, he spent 20 hours on that. It has 7 detention ponds. It's in the Sinking Creek watershed. So he spent a lot of time helping us with that review. And I think it is definitely well worth it to have his eyes on those projects. We paid the Soil and Water Conservation District $35,000 for our Stormwater Partnership Grants Program. So Martha has already received many applications so far this year. She's also in the process of hiring a technical conservation specialist, conservation resource technician, that is the appropriate title for them. That'll help her implement those projects. That was funded through a grant from the state. So very excited to offer that to our county residents. Fuel usage, again, very high, means our crews are working. So of course we have to pay. Again, there's that water monitoring from the Lake Monroe Water Fund MOU from last year. The next one is Baby Creek. So I was planning on doing this towards the end of the staff report for a more detailed update, but we did complete tree removal for one of the structures. We got that done before the bat window ended. So that will be ready for bids. Okay. Does anyone have any questions?
Question?
I have a comment.
Go ahead.
Just, you were a bit modest with the cartograph certification. I just really wanted to commend you and applaud you for your efforts of learning new skill sets. This is something I've been waiting to see grow. When we brought Cotograph in for our asset management, and it looks like you're going to be able to crosswalk it over with other GIS applications. And I'm just so pleased with kind of the way that this is evolving. And Lisa, you brought in a great person that's just itching to learn here and there, or I hope you are, at least that's my observation of it. And I just really wanted to bring some attention to that and commend you on your efforts of taking on, technology and learning new skill sets, because this is going to be phenomenal for us for future review or any type of analytical kind of analysis.
Thanks, Tron. And also thank you to Jared, who he sat in on the GIS modules with me, and I hope he got a lot out of it. We were able to solve some problems right away, so.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Commissioner Thomas, do you have any comments or questions?
No, no comments or questions. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay. I don't believe we have to vote on accepting this, do we? Okay, then let's go on to old business. First item is update on the intersection drainage improvements at South Birch Road, West Hines Road, West 45, and with the Abrams Design Group. So do we need a motion on this?
Yeah, so I brought this up at the last time we met in February, I believe. So this is an intersection that has had some continuous issues with ice in the winter. It's on a state road, and there are 2 county roads that intersect the state road at the same point. So this one will be a little bit tricky. We have obviously a lot of coordination to do with NDOT. I've been in contact with them already to help us, I guess, wrap our minds around how this is going to look and what the coordination will require. I've received this proposal from Abram Moss Design Group. Chelsea Moss, I believe, is with us on the Zoom call, so she can answer any questions you have. But this is pretty standard. She'll be subcontracting the survey of the intersection and then doing the modeling and design for several, I mean, we could go about it a few different ways, but whatever we decide on the final thing, she'll be designing the storm sewer improvements. And then we can take that, either choose to do it in-house or contract it out, depending on the complexity of it. So.
Okay, so do I have a motion to accept this proposal for the $13,000?
I move to approve.
The contract?
Yeah,
Second.
This is the contract with the Abram Moss Design Group for the intersection drainage improvements. Are there any questions or comments?
Just give opportunity to Chelsea Moss if she wishes to speak, since she came to the meeting today. If not, that's probably fine as well.
Ms. Moss, is there anything that you think we should know? Go ahead, please. She has her hand raised.
There we go. Or afternoon. It's not morning anymore. So I don't have anything specific. If you guys do have any questions, but we are ready to get started on this right away. I know it's a concerning intersection. My father commutes that way quite a ways or quite a bit, and he said he's noticed it being an issue in the winter and stuff. So we can get started on this right away. So.
I do have one question. It indicates in the contract that the survey work could begin within about 8 weeks. How quickly do you think your work will be concluded?
So a lot of that'll be contingent on how quick coordination with NDOT goes. we'll be able to start on some of the analysis and design work, probably with analysis and design. We'll actually be able to start within about 2 or 3 weeks on that. Survey work, when I last spoke with Eric, he is probably 6 to 8 weeks out right now. Survey will take him about less than a week probably to complete. And the initial analysis will take us, initial analysis and design is probably going to take us 3 to 4 weeks to complete. What I'm looking, if you choose to move forward, I'd be looking to have plans. Let's see, we're at mid-April right now. So I'd be looking to have plans complete by the end of June. But then we'll be in a bit of a review process with NDOT, and I'm not sure what their timelines are on getting back on things like that right now. But an additional or initial set to go to NDOT and such, by the end of June, we should have that all complete, and then it'll just be those coordination efforts and reviews with them.
Thank you. Ms. Ridge or Ms. Latonia, do you have anything to add?
No, I want to thank Chelsea for this proposal and tackling this project. So thank you, Chelsea.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Thomas, did you have something?
No,
Okay.
thank you.
If there are no other comments,
I was just going to make a comment that this is my first time seeing Abram Moss, so that's great. And it has a Bloomington address, so it looks like they're a local company, and we just really encourage that. So I'm pleased to see that we're supporting our local professionals.
okay. Ms. Latonia, would you please call the roll for the motion to accept the engineering proposal agreement with Abraham Moss for $13,000?
Julie Thomas,
Yes.
Githens,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Enright Randolph.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes 4-0. Let's move on to new business. We have on-call contract with hydro seeding services. And do we have a motion to address this contract?
A motion to address or
I'm sorry, to accept.
move to approve the on-call contract for hydro seeding services, Emerald Grading and Seeding, Inc.
Second.
Thank you. Ms. Antonia, you want to explain this also?
Yeah, so the highway department has always, run into some tricky situations with roadside ditching, especially times of year where, grass won't grow very easily, or in places where it is just difficult to grow grass. So roadside ditching, I think would be a good candidate for hydro seeding. Toby at the garage first brought it up to us, and Jason Moore did a fantastic job researching different companies, different materials. He spent a lot of time, I guess, talking to the owner of this company, Jake, and coming up with a plan that will work for the highway department, since it's a pretty unique situation. So we ditch, miles of road at a time. And so this contract would help us have a hydro seeding company follow up behind the ditching work and be able to stabilize it much quicker than if our crew were to spend a whole day out spreading seed and doing erosion control blankets. We still will be doing that work, of course, but this might be useful, just another tool in our toolbox to be able to address some stabilization issues we're having on the roadsides. So, and I think it'll be a great service even for ditching in some residential areas. So.
And that I should specify that the contract is with Emerald Seed Grading and Seeding, Inc. Sorry. I did read all this before, you know that. I sent her questions in fast, yeah. Questions or comments?
Yes. Is there? Wait. Oh, yes. What I wanted to ask about is, I think they must have come along the end of my street sometime this summer and put in a culvert underneath the street. And the first time it rained, the culvert filled up with gravel. Is that something that the owners are responsible for?
Any pipe under the road, you can call the highway department. And that's why we have the back truck. We can help clean pipes under the road.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Ms. Thomas, did you have any questions?
No questions. Thank you.
I don't have any either. Seems like a good use, allows the crews to work on other things. Yeah. So call for the vote on the contract with Emerald Grading and Seeding for on-call contracting for hydro seeding services.
Jones,
Yes,
Githens,
Yes,
Enright Randolph,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
move on to the next item, which is a request for additional new tandem dump truck.
move approval of the request for additional new tandem dump truck.
Second.
I don't know whether it's Ms. Ridge or Ms. Titonia that's going to explain this, so.
That's all right. I don't know if I was talking about this one or not, but that's okay. So we want to keep our fleet in current great condition as much as we can and replace them as we move forward. In ordering dump trucks at this point, it is probably a year out of getting those vehicles in. And also with the cost is increasing as we move forward. What we, I think, ordered some last year and they were to cost us, say, 167,000. And we are at 203,000 at this point. That's our current quote, $203,138. And again, even as soon as we place the order, we're probably looking at the middle to the end of next year before, unless, how they put it is if you can put it into their line and get it sooner. So that's why we're trying to be proactive of getting it into the manufacturer line to where maybe when it comes down to it, there might be an entity that can't afford it at the time due to the price increase. Somebody that might have already had it order in and they won't be able to go ahead and fulfill and purchase that truck. We want to be in line to say that we do have the funds sitting here to order that truck, even if, and if we don't get it, then we wait for the next one that comes available. So we're trying to stay ahead of the game to where we're not a year or two out for replacement and planning ahead. So it was the plan of going into either the May work session or the June council agenda to ask for the additional if it's approved.
So that this is not already in the current budget.
Pardon me?
This is not already covered in the current budget.
No, we did not budget for this in the 2022 budget.
Yeah.
We had planned for this tandem. If you remember our FSG report, it did have about in one of the reasons of increasing the fee was also to increase the crew, increase the equipment that's used.
Right.
And this is was still part of that package that was included.
Very good. Are there any questions or concerns, either Ms. Thomas or?
I guess, and maybe it's just not jumping out to me. What is the anticipated cost for the new vehicle?
The tandem truck,
Yeah,
$203,138.
okay, and shoot, yep, it's expensive. Just a quick comment, and I know we're not there, but maybe, years into the future, when I was attending a conference just recently, they talked about sensors on new vehicles. And some of these vehicles, the sensors, they can like tell the heat of the road surface or, other things of that nature that could really benefit stormwater operations and even highway operations. I know there's kind of a crossover with stormwater staff to highway in the winter, but
one thing that was recommended was when you start looking at your budget with vehicles and things, and if we ever move to having more of a dynamic sensoring kind of component to our vehicles to measure, it even does the wind. So there's stationary gauges. I'm sure you're very familiar with this. Is just kind of making it more mobile. And so you can kind of see what the temperature of the road is, and then you can then equate, should we drop, sand or salt on there due to the temperature. So there's a lot of different factors that play where it really washes out the cost and maximizes, our staff, equipment, and taxpayer funded money. And so what was said was, as you're looking at these plans long-term of replacing your vehicles and such, maybe start if we ever do go to censoring, that those should be built into those costs for the vehicle too. So that's what they were kind of recommending for, people that are trying to, identify how to continuously update this technology and utilize it, is that they build in those costs with the cost of the vehicle itself. So just wanted to recommend that. I'll send Kelsey kind of a quick summary of what that session was and all the terminology. So if you ever want to look it up, you can. But it's just kind of something I think could really complement stormwater moving forward. And when I say moving forward, I'm talking about like 5-10 years from now, but it's just something I'd like us to consider, especially since we're looking for a vehicle replacement plan for, quite some time. So.
Absolutely. Thank you. Is there any other discussion on approval of the new tandem dump truck? Or at least forwarding the request to county council? If not, would you call the roll, please?
Enright Randolph,
This way, of course I'm going to support it. It's still one that's just a little over my head. So I have faith in stormwater, and yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Yeah.
Githens,
Yes.
Jones.
Oh, yes, sorry.
I thought you changed your
Thank you.
name there for a minute. Okay, let's move on then to staff reports. Ms. Ridge?
So we're kind of preparing ahead for vehicle replacement and then also the 2023 budget. So we are not playing catch up when it's time to prepare those budgets and missing a meeting to keep you all informed. One of our vehicles is a Ford Focus. It's a 2012. So next, it's 10 years old at this point. It's my understanding that, it's not a real reliable vehicle that we'd want to take to a Purdue Drainage Conference that's 2 hours away at this point. We had reached out and ordered 3 2022 Ford Explorers along. Greg Crone, fleet manager, has also ordered some vehicles, Ford Explorers, also at the same facility. It was our understanding that the vendor also ordered a couple extra Ford Explorers just to have in stock. And we were hoping to grab one of those vehicles for stormwater. It's at a cost of, here it is, our price of $29,272.25, which is actually a great discount for an SUV to be replaced and also possibly be available this summer. They're ordered. We have not ordered Stormwater's vehicle without approval. We just would like to get one of those extras that they ordered if it is approved. Then we also have a 2001 Chevy Silverado. We have a 2016 Ford F-150 and a 2021 Ford F-150. We weren't sure of the needs of the stormwater inspector, and we came across the Ford F-150 and we purchased that in 2021. We would like to replace that one with a smaller truck and move this truck to our crew to make it a crew truck. It makes more sense in the department after being used the last few months by our inspector. And then we would also like to replace the Stormwater 06, which is a 2016 Ford F-150. Would be the Stormwater crew truck. It's moving down the line is what I'm trying to say. And it's all spelled out. Dave, I see your confusion because I'm just as confused too. So actually, we would be asking to put in the 2023 budget, one vehicle, and purchasing the 2022 Ford Explorer that could become available to us later this summer. So we would be purchasing one now and asking to put a new one in the 2023 budget.
So what's the estimated cost for the small pickup truck?
We have not had our fleet coordinator get us the pricing for that yet. We just wanted to start the process, and then we would, once we get into starting to look at budgets, we would reach out to him to have him come up with the cost estimate for the 2023 budget.
So I guess just making sure I'm following along. We're looking to replace immediately the SW-01 Ford Focus, the 2012, with a Ford Explorer 2022, right? That's
Correct.
immediately, okay. And then potentially, we might be looking to incur the cost of the small truck as well.
You're correct.
Okay. And so definitely we're looking at a financial impact for the first vehicle at the 29 and some change, which is a good value that you stated. So that's excellent. Happy to hear that. Okay, great. Just making sure. It took me a second to understand what the vehicle ID was and the shifting around. And
I know and I know I sounded confusing.
no, it's
Dave.
super clear. Once I was able to coordinate what was on the chart.
Once I
even
started
made a
looking at the
table of
numbers,
it.
SW1, 08, and 06, then I was getting myself confused on which one. And then we also, with like the Stormwater 01, the Ford Focus, we can surplus that and get partial of that money that we're using for the 22 Ford Explorer. We can get that back through. We use Gov Deals quite a bit and have great experience on that for selling our used vehicles.
Awesome.
And I will add, in order to make the transition for the stormwater cruise work trucks, the 2001 Chevy that we're wanting to get rid of it's in need to be replaced. It has a gaping hole in the driver's side floorboard. You can see the road. It's not safe. They use it as a work vehicle. It has a hydraulic lift gate on it, and that is the main reason why it's so useful for them. So you will see in the coming months, we're trying to make some improvements to Jason's F-150 that'll be passed down as the new work vehicle. That one's from 2016. It's starting to get a little bit old. So we're going to be putting a hydraulic lift gate on that and doing some improvements to outfit it as the new work vehicle. And then a few things for Erica's F-150 that'll go to Jason so that he can use it for his day-to-day. So you'll see a few charges coming up where we've done those improvements to get ready for this.
Well, that's excellent. I've came to this room a couple of times to speak about the current state of the old surveyor van. And they had me walk back my statements a couple of times, but I'm glad that we can provide you a vehicle that is safe and meets your needs. So
Either Commissioner Thomas or Jones, do you have any comments about this or questions?
No, I don't.
No,
So I had actually looked at the price of Ford Explorers online, and I will say that this is a good discount. It really is. The
Yeah.
sticker price kind of shocked me. So, yeah, thank you for doing that kind of negotiation. And again, you'll be going to council for appropriation.
Yeah, for the 2022, but I go at the same time as going for the tandem. Yeah.
Because I did ask Ms. Titonia to send me copies of the budget, and which she kindly
Yes.
did. And so I wanted to make sure where it was covered. That's all. Yeah. So,
I move, or have we called for approval of that?
no. So go ahead.
Just call the question, right? Or do we do public comment or?
We haven't had a motion yet.
It doesn't even call for action. Is
No,
it just kind of
this
giving
is
you
just-
direction?
This
Yeah,
Okay.
is the staff report.
Yeah, this is, yeah.
Okay, well,
Okay.
you have my full support if you're looking for any indication.
Yeah, we'll come bring the 2023 budget back at a later date, but I don't know if you need to approve me going to the council for that other additional.
I just
That would be
appreciate,
my only concern.
I appreciate the transparency. That's awesome. And you have my full
I just don't
support.
want
I
to.
also appreciate your summary of the vehicles too.
Commissioner Thomas?
Yeah, if you are going to council for an additional, we should have a vote behind it, I think, to show support.
I think they'll ask me that.
Yeah.
They will.
Yeah.
I would like to move approval of the stormwater vehicle replacement plan request for additional appropriation at county council for the 2023 budget.
Second.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion on this? If not, Ms. Latonia, would you take the roll, please, or call the roll?
Githens,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
and Wright Randolph.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go on to Ms. Latonia for your staff report.
Yes, so I need to give you an update on our stormwater interns. So we have two part-time positions that we offer in the summer as internships because our graduate fellows are only able to work during the semester. So we have a gap during the summer. These positions weren't hired the past few years. So this is the first time we're doing this again in a couple of years. So we've gone through the hiring process and our two candidates have accepted. They'll be starting May 16th. So I'm looking forward to introducing them to you and to the work they'll be doing this summer, helping us with outfall inspections, detention pond inventory, and updating our assets in cartograph, doing a lot of field work and checking things for us. So the other thing I wanted to bring up, I mentioned in my financial report that we are making some movement on Baby Creek finally. So we had a few issues with the crossings over the winter, some of the big storms, and one of them washed out pretty badly. Our crew was able to fix it, but not confident it's going to be a good long-term fix. And so I went ahead and just took out that specific structure. It's the third low water crossing back on the road. And just going to implement that one separately so that we can get it done this year. And then we'll look at contracting out the rest of them soon. So this one, we were just limited because of the tree clearing window. We have, federal permits, so we are required to clear trees before the end of March. I was able to get Bluestone Tree to remove those. And so we are ready to bid out this project. We'll have bid openings on May 4th.
That'd be exciting. If there's bid openings, yeah. Mr. Rickert, do you have something for us?
So we have Adam giving our MS4 annual report presentation. I put a time limit on this. I want to be sensitive to everyone's times, but if you have any questions. All right, if you have any questions at all, if you can't get to them today, we're happy to answer them at a later.
Thank you. Doing the annual 2021 annual report highlights. So I want to keep this open. So if there's any discussion, feel free to interrupt or add to this. Okay, so I need to. Thank you. All right, so with our permit, we have minimum control measures. It's okay. Minimum control measures 1 and 2 include public education and outreach. Okay, and with COVID restrictions and considerations in the last few years, I wasn't part of the department when this was taking place, but from what I've read, everybody was really flexible and really adjusted so that we would still be able to provide minimum control measures 1 and 2, that we provided online training workshops. One, the septic system workshop, which included Jim Brown, soil scientist, very interesting, and the way he presented his part of the presentation was there's with each site, whether you're putting in a septic system or other types of development, there's site restrictions. Each site is specific and it has considerations that you need to apply to the development. So unfortunately, you can't just use a one size fits all. One example he provided was, if you have a utility easement, on paper, it may look like your septic field would, there would be no issues, but, a few years down the line, when the utility company needs to do maintenance, they're going to likely crush the fingers. So there's a lot of good content in that workshop. We kind of were able to take care of 2 requirements within the permit. Prior to that workshop, we sent out postcards to Lake Lemon residents, since that's in an area that, septic systems and lakes don't always work well together. So and postcards, we invited them. What interesting thing about the postcard, it says, "Get pumped about your septic system," which I thought was pretty funny. But in addition to the online workshops, we had the contractors workshop, which was in person. And all those presentations are available on our website. So I've referenced those presentations pretty frequently in my 5 months of employment. So with the suite stakeholders, that's a big part of MCM 1 and 2, in that they help us keep us accountable and make sure that, if there's any gaps or areas that we need to improve upon, we rely on other stakeholders, and that helps, produce a educational program that's, is truly outreaching to the public. It's not just we're adjusting to, what the public needs in terms of stormwater education. So, okay. So continuing with MCM 1 and 2, MCM 2 activity 4, Friends of Lake Monroe, during the warmer months, they provide cleanup opportunities, which I feel like is a really perfect example of an opportunity to allow the public to participate. And I feel like the public wants to be part of this, that, especially during COVID, that, there was there wasn't that opportunity. So they, during 2021, provided, I believe, 11, separate cleanup activities. And currently they're doing the septic system cost share program, which I believe they've already exhausted the funds for that, which is a good thing, in that the residents pay for the septic hauling upfront, and then Friends of Lake Monroe reimburses them for that. So hopefully they'll continue with that program. So MCM 2.
Sorry, I was trying to look.
During the 4-H fair in 2021, the survey was done for 69 respondents that were at the fair. So that's a good opportunity to kind of emphasize gently to the public, these are what BMPs are. These are what you can do as a resident, that, whether it's picking up pet waste or removing fuel stains from your driveway, or using a rain barrel, that, here's some examples that you can utilize. So you want to try to encourage that as much as possible. And then MCM2 Activity 5 with the Adopt a Stream program. Once again, that's an excellent opportunity for the public to participate in, hands-on opportunities. And then, of course, MCM2 Activity 7, our agreement with the soil and water conservation. There is a need for improvement on private property for stormwater improvements. So that's something that we hope that continues, and we learn from that. I think the residents learn from that too, that even if they don't partake in the actual funds, they may benefit from learning what they can do. That maybe it does involve a lot of money or resources for that. So, okay. And then moving on to MCM3, the illicit discharge detection and elimination. We haven't done outfall survey since 2017, so that's in the schedule for me to do with the interns for 2022. So there's just a few requirements. We have to wait 3 or 72 hours after a rain event. And if we encounter a outfall that's discharging, we want to monitor that and determine if that's truly an illicit discharge or not. So looking forward to doing that and updating Cartograph with that information. And then MCM Activity 3, I'm sorry, fuel stations and restaurants. I'm sorry, gas stations may have just their day-to-day operations. There may be fuel spills from people overfilling their vehicle. We want to make sure that there's, they have spill cleanup equipment available, that they have a plan in place to correct that spill if that happens, and just general maintenance so that those establishments don't create a stormwater negative impact. And then MCM Activity 3, MCM3 Activity 6, creating a GIS layer for Rule 6 facilities. And I think maybe later on, we may have to inspect industrial facilities. So that's really similar to, in my opinion, for facilities that have SWIPs, that we have to ensure that if they have a spill, once again, that they have a plan and they have the equipment to take care of that. So yeah, I'm sorry. Just to clarify, I'm referencing industrial facilities with Rule 6. That industrial facility has their own permit, stormwater permit. And then with our MCM3 Activity 7, we have the public portal where residents can report illicit discharges or concerns. It doesn't necessarily have to be illicit discharge, but that is a good outreach as well, that we're that more eyes on the county, that we have the public, we wouldn't necessarily know about it otherwise. So okay, so I'll move on. Okay, MCM for the construction site stormwater runoff for 2021. It's really important to track our inspections, that we're actively inspecting these construction sites, so that we're talking with the developers so they understand that if, in the day-to-day operations, there's going to be issues. Erosion control fencing may deteriorate or become damaged, so you have to readjust it. One of the comments they made during the recent LTAP conference, IDEM was encouraging the developers to do their own inspections, that it's okay if they kind of fail the inspection, that it's going to happen, that they're going to have to correct their erosion control measures, so that I think they were trying to emphasize that just because your site isn't perfect or it needs improvement, that's okay. We want you to keep track of that and document that so that when as quickly as possible that you can correct that, and that in turns helps everybody that they're taking it seriously and they're correcting it before it becomes a more serious problem. So, but with the inspections during 2021, we did 106 construction site inspections, and also we had 55 active construction sites with 24 sites that were closed. So, and also before I leave this page, during 2021, we sent out 3 separate mailings during March, later in the summer, and then in the fall, just to kind of, for that season, to impart to the developers, this is what we'd like you to be thinking about and considering, appropriate for that season. So we want to try to keep in touch with the developers and make sure that if they have questions, that they feel comfortable contacting us. Okay, and then moving on to MCM5, the post-construction. Erica has done a really good job with trying to build this BMP inventory so that we know where they are, because unfortunately, you have development, and you're always like, I want to know where this is, and we want to have a resource. So she developed this template where the inspections are tracked geographically, and that helps us in many ways. One including is like we can tell where we have not inspected, where we don't have a good idea of the inventory. So the other way is just the HOAs, that with the HOA environment, there might be a different president from year to year, and they may not understand the importance of inspecting their own BMPs and infrastructure. So hopefully moving forward, we can develop a relationship where maybe we have a HOA workshop and we invite multiple HOA presidents, so that we would like you to know, the basics, that we want you to inspect your own infrastructure, that, if there's a problem, that you have the resources to correct it and to improve it. So, okay. And then MCM6, the good housekeeping for county operations. As Kelsey mentioned, we're developing a contract for hydroseeding. That's important since that might be a difficult environment to grow, grass, and so if we can improve upon that, so we're working on that. Cartograph, that's an excellent tool to document outfalls, and there's just a lot of infrastructure that before Cartograph wasn't documented well, or there wasn't a good system to kind of pull it all together. So with that, I'll mention that welcome to Lynette. She's our new administrative assistant. So I think she's going to be helping us kind of pulling some of those loose ends with Cartograph together so we can improve that. And then MCM6 activity 7, providing training to our highway garage on stormwater best practices. So even during COVID, that we were able to do that, so that we fulfilled that, and we want to keep them current so that we have new employees, and want to make sure it's current. Okay, so this last slide is a lot, but I'm not going to go over every single bullet point, but this is kind of the 2020 goals. We mentioned the outfall survey, HOA database. Really like to have a better idea of, where the existing HOAs are and try to, as best as possible, encourage them to maintain their infrastructure so we can reduce the amount of problems that are not, they're ongoing for 15 years and then finally it gets to the point where they have to spend a lot of money and time to correct something that should have been taken care of maybe 13 years prior to that. And just, things we have to be accountable for good housekeeping. I mean, with county operations, we have to continually do improvement. And that's kind of what I was trying to emphasize with this last part with, any organization has resource and financial limitations. So we should, in my opinion, we should constantly be striving to improve, whether it's training or day-to-day operations and documentation of record keeping so that, we ourselves are providing a good example and, we learn from our mistakes. So I know that was a really quick rundown of the annual report, but if there's any discussion, be happy to have any discussion with that.
The new button. Yeah, and I know that this is our last item on the agenda, so I'll be quick. I jot down MCM, good housekeeping, and followed it up at the end. So I'll just go ahead and mark that one off. I really love just incremental growth and effort towards all of these activities and controls. So great. Can we get a copy of your presentation?
Absolutely.
Okay, great. Now, I'm not sure if you said SWIP or SWEET earlier when you were talking about stakeholders.
SWIP, Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan.
Okay. I was just going to say SWEET. SWEET's a great group of different professionals within the city, the town, and IU. It's the Stormwater Educational Environmental Team. And just thought that was neat. I wasn't really sure if you referred to them, but I do want to plug what was discussed because this is a lot of educational opportunity and other events that we discussed there. And there's a Jackson Creek cleanup
April
30th at 1 p.m. and it's on Facebook if anyone's interested. So go ahead and plug that. Activity 7 and 6. Do you mind scrolling back to that? That's kind of the GIS one on your presentation.
Yeah. Are you?
Well, that's going to be the next one, but it's the page before that, I believe. Activity 6 and 7. There we go. Really fascinated with the growth with using kind of GIS. It's just really going to change how we deal with stormwater, I think, here at this county, how we present to the board, how the public consumes this information. Just excellent. Reporting mechanics to public. Oh, okay. So that's the one, the activity 7. So not sure. I know you have a portal, but there is the survey 123, which actually has a map component so they can zoom directly to that spot and create that spatial coordinate. So I'm not sure if that portal you're using is as highly dynamic as some ARC maps or the survey 123. So I just wanted to recommend, go ahead.
We're using survey 123 for the BMP inventory.
Well, that was going to be my next one. But so, yeah, think if that's something you want to move this activity 7, even potholes. I think you have a staff that could kind of get you to use your imagination, and it could really, I know you have a very effective tool now, but this is a way where it's easier for the public to report. So just wanted to encourage the idea of using that and just reach out and we'll give you all the support needed to help develop that survey. On the next page, the BMP practices, and I know I'm holding everyone up. I want to commend
We do have a
Erica.
hard stop at 4:25 today.
Oh, we
Okay,
do? I
so-
just want to commend Erica and
this right here is kind of the stewardship or the management phase. Eventually, we're going to get to the administrative phase, and that's what Kelsey was talking about, to understand that, hey, we have 20 sites that need to be inspected this year. We've seen 15. Here's the 5 that remain. That's awesome. And then there's going to be, I hope, a third phase, and we're bringing one of our projects to the third phase, and that's the user experience phase. So making this more available to internal offices and staff, or to the public. So I just really commend you on your efforts over the last year, and it's really going to change how we do business and stormwater quite significantly. So again, I commend you on your efforts, and I thank you for them as well.
Thank you.
Oh, one last thing on promotional stuff, we should start putting a QR code to our website. That doesn't become static. And I think it's became a little bit more popular, so people can just pull out their phone and come right to our stormwater division. Something I've been advocating in a lot of promotional discussions.
Good idea.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank you for all the educational efforts. The better the public understands all of this and takes care of it on their own, the more money the county saves and can be used more directly for drainage problems.
Well, and it keeps people's taxes down as well.
Yes, yep.
We've just
Thank
heard
you.
that. Nice job, very nice job. I wanted to thank the interns that we've had this spring. Will they be back again in the fall as they are second-year students?
Yes.
Okay, well, tell them we want to see them in the fall. No, one of them I've known for many years. And so I do look forward to their report. And I'm really glad that you're able to pull people in like that. It's very, very valuable experience, I know, for them as well. If there are no other comments or any other concerns, please.
I wanted to make sure we introduce Lynette Murphy. Adam kind of did, but Lynette is our new administrative assistant for Stormwater. And I'm thrilled to have her. She has experience in the county previously with the health department. So welcome, Lynette.
Hello, and thank you.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Yes.
And thank you
Glad-
for sitting through the.
I'm excited to join the team.
You've been needed.
Yes.
Well, if not, we'll call this meeting to an end. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
And
you.
our next meeting is May the 11th at 3:00 here in the Nat U Hill Room, and it will again be hybrid, hoping that nothing disastrous happens. Thank you, TSD.